live from a J.K. Rowling approved apocalypse. This is State of the Game, the only place you can go to escape debates on how celebrities bathe their children. We won't talk about it, and that's a promise. My name is Dan-O. I am really a mixture of all pertinent Hanna-Barbera characters. So think of me that way. Not an expert, but like a quick draw McGraw mixture Snagglepuss situation.
Ooh.
So my co-host, an amazing person who's lived an amazing life. I don't want to say too much about it, but he was a janitor at Harvard until he solved an unsolvable math problem. He was discovered. He was paired up with a very sensitive and loving therapist.
Absolutely.
And his life has changed ever after. We're talking, of course, about K Diggy.
Yeah, man.
We had to. I don't write any of this down. I just want that to be on the table. This is like in the head thing that I do here. So this is the year end. We had to bring back Geng. Basically, the mid-year we did with Geng was so beloved. It was so people were just like, this is the shit. This is like the fucking definitive work. And I was already thinking like, man, why try and go with why try and level up? Why try and like, beg LP to come? Like, why not just stick with Geng? We had so much fun. Let's just keep having fun and see how albums mature and keep going,
Valid. Yes.
There's a rat
Thank
race.
you.
There's a rat race in what I do of like keep trying to get cooler people.
I mean,
this is
it's hard to get cooler than me, man. Come on.
It's
just
man.
Let's just be real. It's hard to get cooler than any of this. Let's go.
This is
I'm trying stuff. All right.
Yoda is back.
Yoda is back.
This isn't Baby Yoda. It's not Baby Yoda. Geng is like a vision of Yoda when you're in a battle, you're losing. That is the kind of Yoda.
Oh, wow. That's going to be an intro to like a mixtape I make or something. God damn.
The green vision of Geng just appears and it's like, pull it together, and that's what you do. So, and I'm so happy to have you because holy shit, what a year for PTP and the releases you've put out. I was thinking, I was like, man, I could have a mini list of PTP top stuff because like this was a test with Thick and Silence, Lungs, Birth of a Lone Swordsman. Like what I loved about this year on PTP, and you correct me if this is the wrong narrative, but avant-garde hip hop that is experimental in the manner that you usually greet is known to the pros and cons. On the cons end is typically thought of as like it's very we're not getting our bars in, right? We're doing everything but the basic thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bars all over the place with this year with PTP, no matter who it was. How do you feel about that?
I feel great, and I feel like it's a big show and prove. You know what I mean? Like I feel great and honored and proud of everyone who. I mean, I'm happy to have like been able to collaborate with everyone. You know what I'm saying? And like, one on my part, like to be invited into their world. You know what I'm saying? And also to help expand on anything that they felt I would be good for for that type of role or whatever. So in a lot of cases, it would be the physical realm. It would be like the visual aspect, the design aspect going into the physical realm. So like creating that sort of that side of the vocabulary to that world. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to like actually like see what like see all that came out or whatever. But yeah, I mean like. It's been a crazy the last 2 years or so, like especially since quarantine, that's when everything started to rev up, obviously due to like the Bandcamp Friday landscape that got introduced, which I have my like there's the pros and cons to that, but you know, that's my critique of it. But yeah, as far as like doing cassettes for folks, bringing, you know, folks having an album out already on their side, and then doing the cassette version, like, so like a Kai solo, for instance, like running back from like the newest to the going, and then now we're going backwards in his catalog, so to speak. You know, like next year you're gonna see a couple. I mean, he's got new stuff on the way, so it's like this juggle. But like and then like Air and Masai solo album this year. You know, Contour. I did both Contour cassettes. One was on PTP, and then one was for a good question, which is another NYC, like a newer NYC imprint. But like, yeah, Cities of Eve, you know what I mean? What else? There's, you know, Dream Crusher, fucking all the grip stuff, you know. I feel like that's been a big thing, just because we're talking about showing sort of like this, like, it's not just one label, it's also Break All Records, which is the sort of like the grip Akai led, I would say, record label, that, and just kind of like helping to build them just by default, just from like this like gradual, or this perpetual like release and translation into the physical realm. You know what I mean? Like their catalog number rises as well as PTP's. You know what I mean? So like they have X amount of stuff out in the world now due to the fact that all these things got transferred into the physical realm. And, you know, I also invite like Akai to, like, if he hears this and feels a different, I mean, I saw him last night. If he hears this and feels differently about that, or like feels like that's not the succinct communication of it, all good. You know what I mean?
Right. We're always open to Akai solo coming here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be a really powerful convo. Just because like I feel like the way y'all inquire, like your style of inquiry, and then his style of like, I mean, he's also like very much an inquisitive being and has a lot of thoughts and a lot of ways to say them. So yeah, I love that cat.
I've got a question regarding the label. Like, so it's like kind of a two-part question. So the first part is looking back to the beginning of 2021. Like, did you establish any goals or like a blueprint for how you wanted the year to turn out? Like, what did you have, like specific goals, like or specific like things that you wanted to achieve?
That's a good question. Nothing. I don't really try to think. I don't think I really try to think in the term in any sort of like year goals, like New Year's. You know, when people like have their like New Year resolutions and whatnot. I'm just sort of, I feel like I move more in the current, like move with the current of the moment. Just kind of like I have to be like water in that sort of sense, where it's like all right, like where are we at, and like who needs what, or like, and like what do we need, and then how do we, I mean, like one of my goals actually honestly is to like better understand, for the betterment of everything else, my own sort of boundaries. And that's something that's like, because like we can't just keep operating under these like ideas of so-called productivity, you know. And I feel like maybe we touched on this in the previous and like the mid-year review, but like it goes to the whole idea of like, you know, existing under like what you would call like late stage capitalism or whatever, right? So, you know what I mean, like you kind of have to adopt a few things, but not necessarily subscribe to them, like as far as mechanisms, as far as like how to navigate. You know, you have to put food on the table, as they say, but also you know, like for instance, with the Bandcamp Friday thing, it just created this like very sort of like tumultuous, or like just it created a sort of chaos in the stop and go of it all, because then everyone is just rushing for that single day release. So everyone's coming out on that one Friday out the month, and then it's dead quiet, like the water's still. for the rest of that month. But what that then ultimately does is like puts a lot of pressure on on people who are like facilitating these releases. So like if you have a label and you have multiple things happening every month, that shit gets tiring after a while if it's just once a month, right? Because it's only once a month where you can like get the most amount of like bread for your sales. You know what I'm saying? No untaxed and all that, right?
Mhm.
But then what that ultimately leads to is like exhaustion, is like it is unsustainable, because then also you're looking at, for like people who are just the so-called consumers, like they can't keep up with everything unless they're keeping lists. Like it's just like, well, like, you know, their algorithms are being bombed by like every single person's release that day, and you're not seeing other people's shit. You know what I mean? Because it's just, there's too much. Like you can't just be on the internet constantly unless you really want to. You know what I'm saying? Like monitoring the new releases, whatever. So my whole shit is like, you know, figuring out like where I and whatever resources I have to my sort of disposal, like best sort of are best utilized and best stand and all that, where it's like I'm not getting burnt out, because there's been many moments of burnout. And I think like it's a collective feeling as well. So yeah, not trying to die and not trying to feel like I'm constantly just scratching to survive type shit, where it's just like this shit is like fucking unhealthy, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like all in all PTP and like what we've been able to build, and also just like also shifting, because the conversation always, it's just like, all right, like this worked in 2020, but like over a longer amount of time, certain things just like aren't panning out the same way, or the math ain't adding up. So I have to keep having conversations and updating conversations with folks, and like my collaborators, or the folks who I'm collaborating with, my family, in order to keep it like not just tactile, but keep it like actually like on this level of like, you know, like on this sort of level of like honoring like the holistic aspect of like this building and this creation, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you could like, everyone can get that joy out of the shit. Everyone can be fulfilled. Everyone can get their boxes checked, but like at the right speed and at the right sort of like coordinate, you know what I mean? So
Geng was one of the first people who I heard criticize Bandcamp Friday, probably the first. Big story about Bandcamp Friday was quoted. He said, "But how are people absorbing all the music?
Yeah,
right.
If they're buying a ton of this stuff, how are they absorbing each individual album?" And it's honestly something I talked to Zilla Rocca, who I will refer to as Coach, for the interview. When I was talking about Vegas Vic, we sat down. I was like, "Whose rollout do you really admire?" And the people we admired were like Stove God Cooks, Fatboy Sharif, people who worked an album for like a year,
right?
You know, and kept, you know, whatever videos, features, you know, just keeping their name up, but still working that album,
right?
Appearances, and like you saw those are examples of albums that have grown over time. Make the next album so much easier to drop.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're giving people like a means to actually like follow and grow with you. And it's that thing of like adopting like or maintaining this like traditional model of like release or whatever, whether that be an industry standard or not. People need to like grow with music, right? Regardless, we can't just keep consuming, you know, like you drop a thing each, I mean, like month or whatever, that's just too frequent. Like you're not giving us no time to get back. I get lost. That's like me personally, I get lost and I kind of like give up. I tune out and I'm just like, all right, well, I like this. Like certain folks or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they're great. I love their music. I love their work or whatever, but they just drop too many things. And I'm just like, all right, like, how do I even, you know, like you're not operating at this, like this very, sophomoric level of creation. So I need time to like understand what you're telling me. If you're like rapping, for instance, you know what I'm saying? Like I need time to sit with the words that you worked hard to like put together. So that type of shit doesn't really, you know, so like, yes, like for like Sharif, like understand, like remember, Gandhi Loves Children came out in, came out in
October?
2020.
Yeah, October.
Yeah, I mean, and then it got a recharge once Jeff got tagged up in it, POW and whatnot, and then they released the deluxe edition. The I guess what, earlier this year or like late, sometime this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Sharif, who I've seen like a few times this month, thankfully. Like I've been honored to see my guy a bunch more than I usually do. Like he's been doing videos and just keeping the same shit, keeping your name out there by building more around the album. I mean, I could say the same for like Air too. I could say, what I mean? Because like they're still creating things that signal boost back to the work, to like the main work. Like they're still, they have new joints. Like they're working on some new shit, but like what they have as far as like cassettes, re-ups, things of that nature. Dream Crusher, same thing. Dream Crusher's been doing Panopticon in another country. First it was the cassettes, then it was a cassette reprint, then it was the vinyl, then it was it's shirts, various types of merch, then it's like an art edition of it, which we're working on currently, is shipping out. And then now we got a purple cassette edition of the joints, just because like people really fuck with it. And like awesome. We're building Centennial Gardens together, which is a whole other thing. We have one split, we had a second split, we took it off, so the people who have that, you got something that it's not out in the world anymore at the moment. Like, that's the fun part about this environment too. You could like literally build in front of people and like kind of just it is like anything goes type shit. Like you can like literally lift the hood up and show people what the engine looks like and how like how the cylinders work and whatnot while you're like formulating an album in front of them. That's what Unknown Infinite happened to become. Right. Like because we had Guillotine out, and then it was supposed to come out maybe a month after that, but then we pushed it back for another month and it came out August 8th. Eventually it came out it happened to come out August 8th, right? But it was that thing of like, all right, like we're gonna start building this thing in front of people's eyes, basically, through like, if you're just paying attention, you can get to see little tidbits of it. And then we're gonna drop some new, like, the vinyl just came in. We got a book on the way, like probably coming this week. So we might still have another video in the tuck, or another 2 videos before. Yeah. So before like Amani and I and other friends work on, embark on a public campaign, so to speak, for this new thing that has gotten the works, that has been working on, you know what I'm saying? So it's that thing again, like we did the same shit, you know what I mean? Like shout out to Ro from Rap Music Plug
Absolutely, man.
podcast, because he did a 1 year review of Unknown Infinite, because he had missed the first thing, and it was just like, awesome. I was just like, yo, like why do we need to cap it off at a year? You know what I mean? Like, no, I wasn't listening to any albums that I love and know back to front. Those things, I sat with those things for years.
Right.
I was listening to Operation Doomsday today in the car. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, it's yeah. So everybody has their own schedules and everybody's doing different stuff. My question to you, again, because I think one of the most fascinating things about the year on PTP is these are all young folks, like finding their voice. You've become this kind of logistical liaison for them and their art, right? You've been able to help with the design sense, with the rollout, with the packaging. Like, talk to me about how utterly fulfilling that must be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like I feel like I've said this somewhere before, but like, as far as where I'm at in terms of my age versus other folks' age, I don't really care to think about things in terms of generation. I think like Jeff Chang wrote in the beginning of in like the intro to that book, Can't Stop, Won't Stop, I believe. there was like a denunciation of the term or the idea of generation, which I never paid attention to that. Like, I don't know what generation I am, Y, Z, X, Y, whatever. Like, the point is, you know, like, the point is, like, yes, I've lived on this planet for 40 plus years, right? Like, almost 41 years, right? And I have my lived experiences, blah, blah, blah. And like, but I could still build, we could build whatever, like I could still build. And I understand, like, my role is not to just be a so-called like leader constantly. My role is to like be able to provide guidance or provide just backup, you know what I mean? Like, when the time is right for that. So like,
and you're still growing too as a person, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So you still have a lot, like, you know, you still have a lot to learn as well.
Exactly. And then that's the thing, like, as a teacher, right? I don't call them, like, I don't call my folks students. I call them learners, because we're all fellow learners. Like, I'm learning as I dispense these teachings, so to speak, or whatever. And you know, if I'm like creating a lesson plan or something like that, and I'm like, you know, not reading, but like, you know, reciting or whatever, like teaching, as they say, off of this lesson plan, like, I'm still in the conversation and in the sharing. Like, I still gain knowledge and or like, you know, as I pass on wisdom, you know what I'm saying? So like, for the PTP side of things, to your question, Dan, like, I mean, it's been utterly, it's kind of, I mean, it's how it should be, I think, in my eyes, you know what I mean? As far as like things that I can pass on to folks. Cause like, for instance, like with like a lot of the grip folks, they have their own imprint, as we were talking about, like they have BAR. So to help them grow their thing, like I'm just passing them resources at the end. Like I'm doing PR for them, but then I'm throwing them the links and being like, yo, can I CC them in next time, or CC them in this next email, and then you can have the conversation and then you can build a rapport with these folks. So, and I'm not charging like no crazy PR campaign, you know, type fees or whatever. Like, you know, PR costs crazy bread. Like PR is an industry and a sub industry of like music industry, but like PR for like independent labels doesn't make any sense as far as the math is concerned. Like I paid thousands of dollars a couple times, like out of my pocket for PTP PR earlier in the days. I learned from that mistake though.
Right.
But I don't want, like, there's no reason for anyone, especially in 2020, 2021, you know what I mean? Like 2021, like pandemic state, to be coming out their pocket like that if they don't even have jobs, like, or, you know, a steady employment or whatever, they're freelance. Like, why the fuck are you paying that anyway? For what? For someone to send a few emails? Like, yo, I got that. I could throw that at you and it's not a problem. Like, I'm not trying to hoard the shit from my people. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That kind of ties into a question that I had, because it's funny. I was watching a documentary on HBO. It was like the Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill documentary.
Oh, word. Yeah, how was that?
I loved it. But what was fascinating to me is that the way she broke was that they brought her song to a station. It was like the alternative station in Seattle, and it was just a hit from the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And so people constantly requested that song, and then based on that attention, she went on a little promo tour. Not a little, I shouldn't call it, because she was selling out venues. She went on a tour, and that's how she built her buzz. And I asked this last show, but let me ask you, how does an artist get attention now? Because I mean, it feels like to me like the radio is weak. Like radio is not a way to break an artist anymore, like a viable way as it was in the 90s.
Facts.
So you mentioned PR, like how can an artist get attention nowadays?
Right. I mean, there's a few ways for an artist to get attention. Obviously, you know, you could run the whole, I mean, there's people who aren't even like, there are people who are so-called artists or who are artists by like on paper basically, but they're like doing like TikTok shit. Like they're doing shit to get popular, like on social media, just literally for like social media clout, or like, you know, pseudo economies, you know what I mean? Like you could run the whole pseudo economy game and catch a buzz, and then maybe people tap in with your like whatever you do on the side, you know what I mean? Because like that's what it is. You're not your creativity in the way that you like your musicianship or whatever is not in focus, is not still not the main focus if you're like doing fucking Subway interviews or like, you know what I mean, or whatever if you're doing like food vlogging or some shit, but like you're getting your clicks and you're maybe getting some AdSense payments off of that. So fine, cool, whatever, make it, you know, get it how you live, but like also there's a lot of critique around that. I would save that for another day. But as far as like, you know, the way I try to go about it is like there's with experience, with time in, you know, with time playing like very, you know, various fields or whatever, right? Like I did the traditional sort of like, I mean, also because PTP was in, due to the music, was in various fields as well. You know what I'm saying? Like there was this electronic sort of rhythmic music phase, club music, as you could say, but like underground still, maybe a little bit left of like, you know, wasn't your standard just 4 on the floor type stuff. And I'm not gonna even, and also not to insult all the 4 on the floor stuff, because like, you know, techno and houses are incredible forms of creation. You know what I mean? Like that's, I'm not shitting on that at all. But then there was, you know, so I built up like, all right, well, how do we get, you know, putting your stuff on distribution and like getting it into like your Boom Cats or your Junos or your Bleeps, your Tower Records in Japan, like, getting it all on the DSPs and whatnot. That's like one way, but still that's not necessary. That's just getting it out there. And like maybe a store like Boomcat in the UK that like writes these like floral paragraphs. They're known for like their floral paragraph sort of mini reviews of the albums they feature, similar to and that's the old cue card idea. That's the old go to Fat Beats. I'm looking at this Company Flow record that I have no idea who Company Flow is, whatever. Like what, like you could tell me, you could say LP to me. I have like no idea because this is for 96, you know what I'm saying? And there's like a cue card that's had like a magic marker. It's like, you have to buy this. This shit is dope. You know what I mean? Like super recommended. Mm-hmm. Other music, like that local record shop trust relationship, where it's just like they're helping to curate. They have their recommended little stand of recommendations or whatever, and you're just like, all right, like I'm just gonna go off your recommendation because I buy all my music here anyway. So Boomcat runs that model, and they have their little Boomcat recommendation paragraph, you know, blah 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 off of New York's PTP, da 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 da. But I mean, getting up with a label, you know what I'm saying? Like, because then not only do you get the resources, but you also get the so-called cosign, which is visible to the people who don't know anything left or right. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But yeah, press, like PR, whatever, like, you know, getting into the right, to me, for me, it's like getting the right people to document and sort of contextualize it. I think it's like probably one of the most valuable ways to present the music.
Yeah.
At least currently, you know what I'm saying? As far as like cultural value, like getting someone like Marcus J. Moore or John Morrison or you know, there's mad heads. I mean, you know, Philip Linar or whatever. Like there's just, you know, getting like that Bandcamp best of the month hip hop or whatever, Gary Suarez, Cabbages, you know what I'm saying? Like just like figuring out like who's out there, Dylan, Cinema Sci, you know what I mean? Like come on, like getting those heads on the shit. Getting some shit on Passion of the Weiss, you know what I mean? So sending it to getting up with writers, really, because like they're the mouthpieces oftentimes, the written mouthpieces at least, oftentimes, but also like podcasts. That's the new podcasts weren't popping like they are now 5-6 years ago when I started the PTP shit in this sort of way. Whereas like now, like everyone and their mother kind of have like an angle on like music reporting via podcasts or music or cultural commentary when it comes to music, right? So now we have these great, I got lists, you know what I mean? I got lists, I got names, and I got numbers, you know what I mean? And that's really like, that's how it's like pretty much how I'm jacking it. Yeah,
And that
off the
takes
top,
place of,
that's
that takes
you
the
know what I
place
mean.
of like the radio, because like
Yes.
you can, if you get your album to the table from Dead End Hip Hop, they're gonna spend 40 minutes talking about the album from 4 or 5 different angles. And that's going to get people deeply invested in a way that maybe one spin on the radio wouldn't.
Right. Oh yeah, no, exactly. Like how many people, like, yes, probably the numbers are like greater for like something like serious, like Shade 4-5, right? Like Trackstar, like shout out to Trackstar, whatever. Like he plays like he's tapped in with PTP. Like he's also run the Jules DJ, et cetera, et cetera. He's on Shade 4-5. Like he plays some he's played PTP shit on Shade 4-5. I don't know, and this is no slight to him, obviously. He's showing love. It's great. And anyone else showing love, playing shit on the radio, John Morrison on Culture Cypher Radio, you know, like we're getting play on NTS, we're getting play on like FM radio even and all that, like not just internet radio, and also Sirius satellite. But like at the end of the day, like how much of that translates to like a heightened knowledge, you know, heightened in like contextualization, I think is more important than anything else or whatever, or a direct pipeline to the artist Bandcamp or to the artist's like webpage or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, or even their social media, where then now you're like tapping in with the person behind the work. And that's then how people, I feel like, feel most comfortable. And also that's when they kind of get reminded to tap in and actually like support the music too. Because like folks, too many clicks is not gonna like, if they gotta like Google you or whatever, like that's already like 70% of the people dropping off. Like they're like not trying to do that work anymore.
Right.
You know, like we're not in a society that like because of Spotify and things of that nature, like streaming, like people are in it for the convenience, and that's been normalized, you know. So digging or having to like kind of like wrap their heads around shit like that, like, or just the finger work of like just going from here to here to here and then finding finally like a Bandcamp link, like a lot of people drop off before they get to that point.
And I think the difference between like the single radio listen versus the kind of deep dive podcast thing is almost the difference between like junk mail and word of mouth. You know, like where you get some junk mail in the mail and you look at it like, why do they even do this anymore? Like I don't care, Bed Bath and Beyond, you just recycle that. And like when someone goes up to you and is like, no, you should check this shit, like you're like, okay, maybe I will, you know, like different level. Yeah,
I mean, a recommendation, a personal reference always is king, you know what I mean? Like is always, that's always God. Like if you're getting it from a trusted source or whatever, like that goes so far, you know what I mean? So yeah, again, there's like a myriad of ways, there's a myriad of avenues to take, you know what I mean? But yeah, the podcast shit really has opened it up and replaced, I would say, like the traditional idea of like learning about something via like a radio play or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So
yep. Yes. We've seen a lot of trends, and that takes us album of the year. We're doing
Let's go.
We're doing splitting it up into two, 50 to 26 now. And instead of, you know, I think honorable mentions, we've already honorable mentioned some people seriously here. But I would say shout out to the people that, to me, this has been an incredibly innovative year, right? with music. And I just want to shout out the people who kind of set the tone. Huss Kingpin with the weird shit he did, Portis Huss and the Brazilian EP, now he's got a triple X-rated Christmas album. He's just been doing whatever the fuck he wants all year, and I love it. Shout out to, this is a weird one. One of the first albums where I knew this year was going to be wild was Donovan Days by I Alive. He's just been a rap producer, and he started like singing and making a psychedelic rock album, and it was great. I mean, we got to talk about this, and it was totally uncharted territory, but he nailed it. And I feel like that set the tone for what a lot of people were doing. Like a lot of the albums that came out were like that, were uncharted territory that people somehow nailed. I just greatly appreciate that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So 50, let me go, let me get it. We'll do 5 at a time, a 5 album chunk here.
Yeah.
Number 50, Juggernaut and Giallo Point, Smoke Filled Room. Number 49, Esther Rose, How Many Times? Dawn's Second Line is number 48. Hold it back in. Little Nas X, 47, Montero. Navy Blue,
Wow.
Navy Eyes, 46.
Wow.
And Maxo Cream, Way to the World, 45.
So yeah, I before we get into the list, Dan, like give a little bit of like your criteria. Like how did you evaluate the albums and place them where they're at?
Yeah, the number one question I wrestled with was, what is the value of an album that's super re-listenable versus an album that you listen to once a year, but it's perfect every time? Right? That was hard for me, and that's something I've been really wrestling with, because really we're talking about like progress at the end of the day. We're talking about people really nailing something they hadn't before in a way they hadn't before. And I think that was what defined this year of the releases for me, where I felt like I always knew this person was talented, but now it's like it's in a different way, or people putting their names on the board for the first time. Yeah, I think Juggernaut is somebody who's a great example of that at number 50. I just fell in love with Juggernaut all year. And I think it was Griff's fault. I think Griff had him on Fireside Chats, and that launched me into a Juggernaut research mode. And everything I listened to was just so well put together. Great ear for beats, incredible hooks, just earwig hooks, bars, sincere individual, never coming out of his face with weird shit. Just legit, and somebody who's just always at it, making good work. He was somebody I could always go to.
Mm-hmm.
So just, yeah, I thought he's got to be number 50 for me, because it's one of those, like, you got to be better than Juggernaut to be in my top 50.
Yeah, he's good. Mm-hmm.
Room to be on this friggin' list is the bar setter. Yeah, I mean, we're talking. It's different for different genres, I would say. So me and you talked about this, Kay, last year. Pop was bad last year. Pop was just not great. Am I wrong?
It wasn't really a year. I feel like it wasn't necessarily the time for pop neither. Like just the vibe, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, just off, and also like I'm not really one who taps in that much with it. I don't really have a reason to not this. And I'm not saying that either to say like pop music is for like is like too simple or like juvenile or whatever. Nah, there's some great pop music. Like I fuck with like some like Dua Lipa or things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, that was probably Dua Lipa was probably the best pop album that came out 2020.
Straight up.
And she came out literally right on the brink of COVID.
Yep. And it was the only dance album, like, even in my shit, like, because I remember talking to people about it and being like, where am I going to dance? Like, I can't even go outside. We're terrified. So
right.
Yeah. It wasn't a year for pop, I think, as Geng said. But this year, I feel like there was a little bit of a rebound, a little bit of a reshuffling. Sure. So I was excited to see that movement. I think you see that with Little Nas X, Montero, Dawn's Second Line. To me, I don't view Second Line as an underground album in any way, shape, or form. Right?
No.
Dawn is like if you don't know about Dawn, that doesn't make her underground. She is
Yeah, that's
She's been around
actually
for 20 years now.
yeah
20
facts.
she's a big friggin' deal. To me, yeah. I walked around my office pointing at people saying Dawn is better than Beyonce for years. Becoming an enemy of people. But
Yeah, that's a quick way. Go against the Bayhive.
I know.
Don't.
Yeah, that's just Dan's opinion. I love Beyonce Bayhive, so don't come at me.
I love Dawn. I love Dawn. I'm a diehard Dawn person, and because of that, I think Second Line didn't hit me as much because I was like, I don't know. I still love New Breed. I still love, these other stuff. But I realized I was being a jerk. Basically, like, if anybody else had put out Second Line, I'd be talking about it to the cows come. Right.
That's the thing I was gonna ask. Like, when was when was the last album? When was the last Dawn album? And because I had this conversation with some about a different artist this week, and like one person was like, "Oh," my friend was just like, like I keep comparing it to the previous album," and I'm just like, "Yeah, but like, what if you just heard this?" I mean, also that's like like a you don't want to be on the line of like revising history either at the same time. Like narrative is important. So like that progression, whatever, that whole arc, that whole story arc or whatever is like important. And I would say like, it's relevant to like your understanding, or relative to your understanding as well. You know what I mean? So, but how long ago was the
I think it was last year. I think New Breed was last year or something. It was my favorite thing.
That's
2019, maybe 2019, maybe.
Let me check. I'll check.
Yeah. Because that's the interesting thing. Like, if it was last year, then that kind of feeds into the theory of what we were speaking about before, where it's just like if you release these grandiose like statements, you know what I mean, too close together, then you're gonna run the risk of like this comparison. I mean, also that happened with like, I mean, that's Nas and Illmatic. You know what I mean? Nas and Ill was written. You know what I mean? Like, and that's multiple years in between. But anyway,
is a critical like point of this year, because the argument we're talking about swings both ways. Second Line, if somebody else had released it who I didn't know, I'd be in love with it. But on the other side, you won't see King's Disease 2 on this list. Like,
right.
Because just because he's Nas doesn't mean I have to celebrate everything he does. Right?
Oh, please don't. Yeah, please.
He has to work the same way we all have to work. Like, it's not. There's no free pass in this. So it's if somebody else had released King's Disease 2, I wouldn't care about it. So I don't really care about it.
Same. Same. I don't get the Hit Boy thing, to be honest. I'm not a Hit Boy co-signer, so to speak. I don't care. I mean, I'm not with it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's just one example. We could talk one way, we could talk, whoever. But yeah. So what was Kay, did you ever find the year on that New Breed?
Yeah, so New Breed came out 2019, January 25th, 2019.
Aha. So that's my thing. 2019. I should have gotten over. But so
so bust it. I have in this later on in this list, I have a couple of examples of folks who I think are creating it with the intention. Oh, I mean, I don't want to speak on Don's intentions either, actually. So, but like in a way where I got something to add on to this conversation later on, because I think like there are some artists who work in a way that they're more able to avoid the comparison game. Just put it like that.
Yep.
Because of the degree, the variance in like from release to release.
But we see this with especially the 50 to 45 of my list is full of people with that comparison thing. Navy Blue, Songs of Sage. Songs of Sage was epic, right? It was everything. It was like people were talking about it till the cows come home. When he put out Navy's Reprise, people were like, this isn't as epic. And I'll be honest, I was like, that's why I like it.
Same.
Surprised because it's about how to deal with life after that shit passes. After the heat of that sorrow, like rebuilding your life and learning how to love stuff again and learning how to just, enjoy being in the park and shit. Like he has lyrics on there that are just very down to earth, very real.
Yeah, I love, actually, I really fell into this album, I think around our actually the week of, maybe, or like week before our like mid-year review. This is one of my, this is like a favorite. So I mean, I don't know, I don't have a top 10, but this is one of my, this is something that I really enjoyed that came out this year. For certain. Like, this is something I will come back to, basically, is what I'm saying. That's like my like rating system. If I come back to it like next year, or like, you know, if I come back to it like again, that's probably a good sign. So you know what I mean?
Yep. And Maxo Cream is another example. Weight of the World, because Maxo Cream put up Brandon Banks, and that was like a huge album for a lot of people. For me, well, and so when he put out Weight of the World, everybody was like, this isn't as conceptual, it isn't as bound together, but it's very soulful. But I like that it's not as stitched together. I like that there's all kinds of fraying thoughts coming together, and that his flow is just amazing. You know, I still think this was an incredible year for Southern flow. When you talk about, you know, Memphis, right? And you talk about, you know, Luca, Isaiah Rashad, you know, you talk,
that's right.
You know, him, Maxo out of Texas. Southern flow is still like hard to replace, hard to do.
Oh yeah, no, it's still very much a part of the conversation. I don't think it ever will not be a part of the conversation. Like, yeah,
In terms of how dynamic that music moves, like, and I can listen to Maxo any day of the week. Especially you put it with Freddie Gibbs and shit, like, oh my god.
Yeah, right. Facts. I gotta tap into this album. I've not yet peeped it. I did enjoy, obviously, the last one. And like I've been tapped in with Maxo for years. So like, since like we had him on our radio show in New York many years ago. I don't know, like 2014 maybe, something like that. And he was cool as hell. Like, talking about like, I don't know, he and one of my friends got into like a conversation about like arms, which is like, you know, on New York radio is a little bit different than something in maybe Texas radio, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it was cool. I think he was surprised, like, you know, happily shocked that this was a conversation that he was going to be having in New York City on the radio. But
it's awesome.
Regardless, that he's dope. I fuck with Maxo.
Incredible.
And also the other Maxo, but that's nothing.
Yeah, I hear you. So the other one I wanted to talk about was Esther Rose, How Many Times? And I have this running thought that like country music breaks down when you build it too high. Like, so when it's like when you try and Maybach music your country music,
yes,
and you try and make it luxurious and big, that's when I'm totally out of it, and I totally don't care about it, and I shut it down.
Yeah.
And maybe that's me. I don't know, but that's how it is.
I don't think it's you. I think that's just like, yeah. I think if you know, like, oh, like polished.
Yeah.
You know, like the fucking pop, like the pop country music is like, is not the vibe. I don't think it's the vibe. I think it's like, I think that's where you get like really, really, really fucking weird. That's like the weird white people shit that happens. Like, you know, that's like the NASCAR, like square dance type shit. I'm just like,
right,
leave me the fuck out of this. This is crazy. Like, you know, like that's where the 808s come in, and just like things just get really fucking questionable.
That's where you get like, you know, the LL Cool J, you know, incident of racism kind of
basically, right.
But no, How Many Times is like a dusty little record with her and her band, really in her kind of, just Peggy zone, just doing her thing. And I love that album. It's just something I've come back to regularly. And that was another thing, K Diggy, that I was thinking about throughout this year was, for pop music, this is one of the reasons Montero made it back, right? Because Montero, we talked about it not being a stable album, right? It's kind of two albums, right? Like a grungy side that is really kind of interested in grunge rock. And then there's the pop, straight pop industry baby side. And they seem to be at odds at times. But regardless of that, I have a theory that a great pop album is like a great comedy variety show. It only needs a few killer sketches to validate.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You need, I mean, I think that's always been the formula with pop. Like you just need you could have like 10, 11 songs, maybe 12 on it. But as long as you have 2 or 3 songs, like I think of like the artists like Robin, like I don't know, the R&B, is she R&B? Well, at the time she was like pop.
Dance,
Pop / R&B.
Dance, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but when she came out, like she had 2 really big singles.
Right.
And those 2 singles are what carried her whole debut album.
Yeah, once you hear Fembots, you're like, I'm in. Let's go. You know?
Yeah.
But it's, that's one of those things. So there's undeniable pop music, and I think I had to put Montero on here because he really did take a chance with this album, and it really was big enough to deliver the hype that he had created. That was the fear, was that the hype didn't match what the art was. And I think he reached it. So I'm pumped for him.
Yeah.
So 44 to 40. Let's do it. Oh, Wally Clark banned from all bars. Helado Negro, Far In. The only time we'll mention those 2 together. That's awesome. Mick Jenkins, Elephant in the Room. Oh God, I want to talk to Mick Jenkins. Anybody who knows. Talk to him. Tyler the Creator, Call Me If You Get Lost. And Chumzilla Scorsese, Sons of Andre, Dungeons of Doom. Ooh. Shout out to Wally, he's completely unique. And just these insane punchline. No one does this. No one's stuff is like this. Someone told me, a very smart person told me off the record, that Wally Clark does what Droog thinks he does.
I can see that. I haven't tapped into Wally Clark too crazy, but whatever. But like, yeah, that's hilarious. Like that's hilarious because it fucking makes sense.
It does. Helado Negro's amazing, and such a great album. It's such a great, like, if you need to come down emotionally, if you need to like take it down a notch and feel like it's going to be okay, There Must Be a Song Like You is a great way to do it.
That's a record that'll get your feet moving a little bit, feet tapping. You know what I mean? That's that. Yo, shout out to Helado Negro, Roberto. Like that's the homie. That's such a good person, and like also the various like forms of the band that has been playing out, or like just the collaborations, like just some really ill people assembled in a room making like lovely music. I don't know. It's
straight. The Helado Negro situation is so interesting because Helado Negro is not. He's lyrically, he's doing the kind of introspective folk music that people used to go to like white singer-songwriters for, right? But he also puts these kind of EDM sounds behind it. Like I went to see him like live, and he had like a pulsing light that was going with the drum machine behind his like beautiful folk guitar. It creates a different sound, an entirely different sound that is hard to describe to your friends. So
yeah, true.
I was like, just listen, just go ahead and listen to this. I don't know how to sell you on it. I don't know a short version of explaining that. Incredible, talented individual. I can't say enough about Mick Jenkins' Elephant in the Room. Kind of similar to Navy's Reprise. Some people are like the Mick Jenkins like hardcore fans are like, this isn't his best, and you know, Pieces of a Man and all this, and like The Waters, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I love this front to back because he's rapping his ass off, he's singing his ass off. These are like, this is like neo soul feel to this album. It's really beautiful. And the song concepts are incredible. Like, Mick Jenkins doesn't get enough love for how ill his song concepts are. Scottie Pippen, is it the cigarettes, you know, the Gucci, you know, warned me or whatever to do it. Like, he's got an NPR Tiny Desk that is amazing. He's great. Got great. Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to him about. I think it's fascinating. He's an artist, K. Since he broke, the only negative people throw at him is that he's too much of a poet. People, I remember reading that when The Waters came out. I'm like, this poetry shit, man. I don't want to deal with that shit. Like, and I was like, man, it's a weird way to get criticized for people to be like, man, I don't want to hear all that poetry shit in my hip hop. That must be a head scratcher to be on the other end of that.
Yeah, facts.
But okay, number 40, Chumzilla Scorsese, Sons of Andre.
Yeah,
Still tapping into this. When we had Chumzilla on
love
the
that
show.
album.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, go, Kate. Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, I loved it. I loved what it stood for. I loved the organization. It was just a really good, that of all the albums, because there's been a lot of, I feel like there's been a lot of albums this year and projects that have come out. That was one of the projects that really stood out for me.
Mm-hmm. I would say, even if you're not like, that's the album I probably right now currently is what I think that's the album that I would show people who would be new to Scorsese, just because I think the way his voice matches Chumzilla's sort of sonic like template, or like like the texture in it or whatever, like what Chumzilla like what Chum samples, and then, you know, however it's processed, it brings out a certain there's a certain grit, or I don't know, for lack of a better term, you know, that matches the subject matter and like it's just his voice, you know what I'm saying, like just like the way he needs something. I feel like he needs something like kind of heavy so he can just sort of bounce around in it, because his flow can be like very like, I don't know, not playful is the word, like animated, you know, he could be animated, and, you know, oftentimes can be speaking about like lavishness, but also like lavishness with like a grim sort of, or with, you know, this sort of like almost tragic twist to a lot of the you know, the so-called fly shit, you know what I mean? So I think I mean, you know, it's called Dungeons of Doom, right? Like, I don't know, I think it's like a very fitting collaboration, so, you know, definitely.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that we talked about in the production episode with Timepiece and Mighty Healthy was we talked about how there really doesn't seem to be much of a separation in the quality you're going to get from, like, you know, Chumzilla to like Stu Banga's Beat Butcher, right? Like, you don't need to save up your money to like go to the big name people. Like, Chumzilla's right there, and he's going to give you a new sound, and it's going to sound amazing. Do it. Like, you don't need to chase those people anymore. I don't. Yeah,
it's a brand name. I mean, it's become like a brand name thing. That's why like people do that. Really, it's just like other people see it and they're like, oh, they must be serious artists because they got this cosign. Like, they got to collaborate with so and so, and it's just like, Yeah, but you know, just listen to this versus like listen to this versus the joint with Chum, and then you know, or whoever, you know what I mean? And it's just like,
Right.
well, you know, this it's not like everyone's just a fake of the one genuine article, or like a diet version of the genuine article. Like Beat Butcher is not, or Derringer or whoever is not like the absolute genuine article of the thing that they do or whatever. Like, you know, also like a lot of those, like let's be real, like most of those sounds, like the Griselda sound, can be traced back to like a myriad of things that happened before that. So you know what I mean?
And I mean, to put it a specific example on it, I loved Ransom on Heavy is the Bed, but I didn't like Big Ghost Limited's production on it. I didn't. It was kind of sleepy. It was kind of boring.
Yo, I'm with you.
My list. It fell off my list.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I haven't enjoyed, and the only Big Ghost stuff that I've enjoyed has maybe been the earlier stuff with like Uncle John, and I don't listen to any of them at this point. Like I don't listen to Uncle John anymore, or whatever. But like, you know, earlier on when I was just tapping into cats, like it's like okay, but like the Conway shit, I was like, nah, that shit is whack. Like, actually, I thought it was like not good. I threw the MP3 player across the room and said, "Fuck this shit. I'm listening to Ka." I'm listening to my own shit. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, G. Like, there's so many people. I can get into a lot of like bridge burning at the moment, but no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, there's so many people who are just like, really?
I just want to put a real name on it. Like, you know, this never fell out of my 50, and it actually rose. Like, because Chum is amazing on this shit. Because Stacy went extra hard on Evil Hogan, and it's an incredible song, and it's an incredible project with all the right features in all the right places, and you know, good album to good album. This is better, you know, like that's it. So
facts.
I agree.
Yeah. So doing we got some.
You got some interesting. There's actually two of my examples are in this right now.
Some people making splashes for me.
Yes.
So we talk 39, I Am God and Dr. Mindbender, Hell's Angels and Heaven's Demons. Brigitte Feelings, 38. More Mother, Black Encyclopedia of the Air. Almost fell off the list, came back to 37. Tanya Morgan, Don and Vaughn, and Amani, A Constant Condensation. Ooh, I love this block. This block of albums is like the unique. You can't get this shit anywhere else. Like this is the special Caribbean lemonade you got to go to the store for. These people are doing it different, bro. Like there's nobody else. No one's ever said More Mother's just no one says that shit. Right?
More Mother does not make the same album twice. And that was one of my examples. Like, you know, during the mid-year, because like doing these things, I'm like taking it to task to like tap into listen to things, because it's like, oh, I have to have something to say when you pull out a name of an album or artist or whatever. And it's like, oh well, I'm just like a hovering head at that point if I have nothing to say, right? So but like a lot of the time I was just like, oh, like this album could have been 8 songs. Like this didn't need to be 25 songs. Yes. And I'm just like, because like you're literally just rapping about the same shit or doing the same thing over and over again, or making the same, you know, you didn't need to release 3 albums this year. You could have you would have been good with 1, or like or just your guest features at this point, depending on who I'm talking about, right? Or who I'm thinking about. But like More Mother, for instance, does so much, but like it's just here, there, blah, blah. Like, yo, from this Irreversible Entanglements, like this is not the same as Analog Fluid. Like this is was it Analog Fluid? Was that joint? The last one. And then this isn't Fetish Bones. Like this is its own shit. This isn't Brass with Billy Woods, obviously. Like, yo, shout out to Keme for real. Like that's
Incredible.
Any folks that are trying to be inspired or whatever, just tap in with Warm Mother and like see how far like the walls can be pushed.
So yeah, I re-listened to this to Black Encyclopedia of the Air, and I was just like, fuck man, Shake Ray is a perfect song. You know, Made a Circle is one of the best songs in the year. Like, this is an album I'm gonna listen to once a year for like the rest of my life. And I'm gonna and so give this props, like give this the props it needs now. And like the same way Amani's The Cravings is one of the most important songs. It's there's nobody who does that. Black Man's Therapy, there's nobody who does that. So these are like examples of people who are just unique commodities. Well, versus Don and Vaughn, which is one of the most re-listenable albums of the year. Just, you know, Tanya Morgan having this incredible chemistry where they just know each other so well. I was really embarrassed when I was interviewing them because I was like quoting the verses and I would always attribute it to the wrong person. They're just so synergistic that in my ears I hear them together, you know. But they were so smart. It's such a smart record. And it's just the peak of just being listenable but smart with gems in it. I Am God really went nuts this year. Hell's Angels and Heaven's Demons is so great. He released 2 projects this year. Both of them so intense. Just very angry at violence. Violently angry at violence. I love it. It feels good. It feels good for us to hear an MC just be like, not cackling at you for perpetrating violence, but angry at violence in the community and focused on it in a way that's like, I don't care if this is, we're going to talk about it.
Word. Yeah, I gotta tap in because I feel like Def C was the first person to really put me on I Am God. I just via text, and then I Am God's from the Midwest, right?
Yeah. Chicago.
Chicago. Right. Okay, facts. Yeah.
Filthy Records with Green Slime and all them dudes. So
yeah. That whole crew. Right. Yeah.
And Brigitte Feelings is just a very dope, meditative. It's all. How did I describe it? Like, it's like, you know, dance music, but with like Sade over dance music. It's a very strange mix, but it's beautiful, and it's kind of exactly the great weird shit of what's going on right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, we need to, can we, before we skip forward, can we say more about the Amani album? Because I also am curious as to how y'all feel about it versus an Unknown Infinite. And this is what I'm saying though, like Amani, Unknown Infinite Amani is different than Amani Constant Condensation, right? And then sonically, obviously, it's different because he's Dolo. He's doing it himself. He's all Alpha Delta or whatever. Then like you have the things like the outro. You have the little field recording piece in there. You know, similar like ideas as far as like how we're playing, how folks are channeling like practice, like different sonic practices. Like there are like field recordings, as you could say, in like an Unknown Infinite, but it's just like played out differently with the subway joint on Constant Condensation. There's a different side, I think. Like there's definitely a tenderness, you know, present. Obviously, the cravings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but a Constant Condensation. I think for me, when I listened to it, was the first time I realized, because everybody's faith in Amani was giant size, right?
Yes.
Anybody who's been around him who talked about him was like, "This is the fucking guy." I'm like, okay, I'll. So when this came out, I was like, okay. It was the first time I was like, this is a person with Mingus-sized ideas.
You know,
funny
you say that. It's funny you say that.
It's a very, like, it's all, you know, Mingus is one of those people where all the albums sound so different, and you think you have a favorite, and then you're like, Black Saint and the Sinner Lady is like fucking top 10 all time jazz albums, like, and I didn't even know that until this year or whatever. Like, you know, he has that because he was so dialed into all of it, you don't even get it sometimes. And so it feels like maybe a Kai would be the Thelonious Monk of that scene, and he would be the Mingus of that. There's like that wave, that young Jedi wave me and Kay talk about.
Yeah. I mean, Amani was my other example. When I was like looking at this list, I'm like, okay, this is like an easy, clear, like within less than a year, actually. You know, Constant Condensation came out earlier 2021, right? Early this year.
Yep, early.
So like half a year, 9 months later after An Unknown Infinite, and it's two different worlds, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not vastly different in terms of like what he like. Yeah, you're just I don't know. I mean, he's rapping. Like, it's not like he's like it's not like he made an R&B album or he made a punk rock album, whatever. No, he's just like he's doing like he just shifted a couple of things over and he's just showing a different angle of the gem, basically. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. Like, your man is not making the same song or not making the same album ever. You know, not consecutively.
Yeah, and he's in the Amani's in the establishing phase, right? So we're talking about I didn't listen to that and go, this isn't an unknown fit. Like, I went into that and said, oh shit, this is the depth of talent we're dealing with. Like, this is self-produced. Holy shit.
Crazy. But I do wonder, is that a good thing when you like, because you said these albums came out within a year of each other, like, because it does talk about consolidation, because I like how I felt about this year is that there was so much music released this year, it was overwhelming in a lot of ways. Like, I think this week Rick Ross released an album and I just couldn't like get myself up to listen to it yet.
Well, I don't think you need to get yourself up to listen to Rick Ross, but you know, it's you save your energy.
I mean, but no, Kay's point, an insane release week, like Alicia Keys, a double album.
Right.
Jesus, why are you releasing a double album now? Like, why? Not to Alicia, just anyone. Like, why would you release a double album, period? Like, I don't know, yo. That shit never really worked well either. Like, people always had to like go back. Why? Because the shit is just too much to sit through in one sitting. Like, you can't digest all that in one sitting. Like Wu-Tang Forever. Like, we all had everyone I know, yo, that shit is revisionist history if someone's telling you different. Like, everyone I knew, Biggie's album, Pac's album, Wu-Tang Forever, they all said like, yo, these albums are too long. I'm not really feeling it like that. Everyone had to come around the mountain a few times. You know what I mean? Do a couple of laps before they actually like got used to that whole flow. Blueprint 2, like, no one fucks with Blueprint 2 because it's fucking long. Like, you could have made a single for that one, especially. I feel like you could have made a single album and it would have been like, you know, it could have been a great compliment to the Blueprint. But
and I think Jay did. He released like Blueprint 2.1 and like cut it down and shit. And
did he? Okay, wow. Right. I missed that memo. But
I mean, because I just think like there's so much music and there's so many things vying for everyone's attention every week, every Friday. There's so many things that are vying for your attention. And like, so like an artist like Amani, when he comes out with a project, I was just say like in January, that sounds one way. And then 9 months later comes out with a project that sounds like completely different. How does he build? Like, how do you build a consistency that, you know, like a following or fans can follow, like a journey that they can go along with?
I mean, I think I think folks like Amani, Akai, I mean, myself, you know what I'm saying, Masai, like and a bunch more people, too many to name at this point, whatever. I think what folks, Kia, I think folks are like cultivating a deeper listening, or like encouraging a deeper listening, so to speak. Like we don't, no one, not we, I'm just gonna say, like, none of the folks I'm thinking of like are pandering, or like, doing the thing of like, oh well, I'm gonna tone this down because people might not understand this.
Right.
Whereas like so many folks on the like built and kind of like subscribe to this like Spotify 1.5 minute, 2 minute song, 25 songs on one album kind of model or whatever. Like they're doing the same thing over and over again. And two, a lot of that shit is stepped on. A lot of that shit is it is dumbed down. It is dumbed down because it's like, well, I want more people to understand it, and I want more people to be able to get it. And it's made for like, it's made out the microwave. So therefore, like, it could be catchy. It could be the next TikTok dance crave or whatever, dance rave or whatever. Dance craze, I meant, but also all of the other words work too. But yeah, you know what I mean? The dance craving. But yeah. But Amani's he's operating by like a jazz standard. You know what I'm saying? As far, not jazz standard, but a jazz like technology where it's just like, I mean, Son is literally like playing instruments, like playing the piano and sampling it, and then creating his own pocket within that. He plays instruments. He loves Mingus. That's why I said that was interesting. You mentioned that, Dan, because like we were working out one time this summer. He put on Mingus, and I was just like,
out too?
Yeah,
that's
I love
awesome.
that.
No, your point, Kay. I think like I really admired people with a plan, right? I thought it's an excellent plan for him because, like you said, 9 months after Unknown Infinite, he hits you with something completely different that is self-produced. It's his thing, that he drew the cover, that it's like a short situation. It's not a long thing. Great videos. And he rode with it the rest of the year. He didn't like over inundate. He was like, here's something different. And that's what we'll do this year. Same thing, Mike. I wanted to salute Wally Clark's plan because early in the year, him and Pharma Beats released Banned from All Bars, which is 9 songs. End of the year, he releases Goon with Flu, which is 9 songs on Tough Kong. So he only released 18 songs.
Yeah.
But he cut them up into 2 projects to bookend the year. So so that you could elevate. And I think that's a plan. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an intention there. There is like a strategy there. Sure. There's a different sort of strategy because what I was alluding to otherwise before was like, yeah, like I think a lot of artists who just release mad music and kind of like do the same thing over and over again, or often criticized as such, are the folks who are planning like, or told to like just do the thing again and again. Like people will understand, like what you were saying, like people will get it because you're kind of feeding them the thing over and over again. So they're like, their taste buds are already prepared for like that next same song. You know what I'm saying? That next easy to digest meal or whatever. And then, but there are folks on the other side who are operating with a different sort of intent. And it's not about exclusion. It's about like inclusion through like a love of this understanding and a love of this growth together.
Then let me ask another question, because this kind of brings up like because I think of King's disease, like both of the King's diseases, and they just didn't like, they were cool though, like they were cool for the first couple of weeks or 2 weeks that they came out, but then like I haven't really gone back to it. When do you think an artist should use the single producer approach to a project as opposed to multiple producers?
I love the single producer approach if it works. You know what I mean? Like I don't, Nas.
Because you look at Illmatic and you look at like Reasonable Doubt with Jay-Z.
Right.
Those weren't those were like the best producers in New York coming together to kind of, you know, boost up this talent.
Right. That was also a different, like, I do have to highlight the fact that that was a different era though too. You know, like producers worked in a different way back then. I feel like, I think there was a bit more of an intentionality like applied to the process. Whereas now, like, you have people selling beats for $50 on fucking online. Like, you have people, you know what I mean? Like, people just making stuff to make stuff and be productive. And like, it's a much more like a production line kind of like output. So there, again, with that speed, how intentional can you be? Like how much thought can you actually put into all this shit? It does come down to sequencing. It does come down to like someone who has a great ear. Nas has historically had like a shitty ear for beats, or like no vision, like kind of a blurry vision when it comes to just the entire world, that execution or whatever. Like the last solid album that he had, to me, like this, like on par with Illmatic, to me was It Was Written. I fuck with It Was Written.
Right.
And you know, he changed up the producers. He got track masters. A lot of people blame track masters for like the sort of like downgrade in the sonic template or like the energy or whatever the case is. But like at the end, how many people for years and years and years have been wanting, you know, these DJ Premier albums with, you know, a Nas or a Jay-Z or whoever, you know what I mean? Like that's been like, that's like that thing like since the days of like those Source magazine fucking XXL rumor columns, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh, like, you know, rumor has it DJ Premier is in the studio with so-and-so. You're like, oh, like you know, the rumor mill breeds this thing of like the single producer. Oftentimes it's DJ Premier, and now it's become Alchemist or like a DJ. And before that, it was DJ Muggs. You know, like it goes back and forth. I think like the single producer thing works if someone knows what the fuck they're doing, and like if there's like a conversation.
Yeah, and I think my answer to you would be interesting. Basically, I think a lot of times it comes down to the producer who's like in the camp. TDE, right? Soundwave was kind of the guy in the camp, like running what the sound was like. You know, Tape Beast and people like that. But like, who is that for Nas? Honestly, it's Salam Remy. Like, I mean,
recent. Yeah,
long time contributor to his production. And how many producers in Billy Wood's phone are better than Salam Remy?
Right.
All of them.
Well, I mean,
nothing wrong with Salam.
I don't want to get into it because like Salam Remy's a legend. Like I don't want to shit on him like that. Like that. I'm on a protect Salam Remy kind of wavelength. Just due to the fact that like Son is like he's always seemed like a good dude too. So you know what I mean,
he's done great stuff people don't know about. He's done
like
stuff, and I'm with you. But I think he's not. If you're trying to run the charts, if you're trying to be a legend, be on top of the mountain, I don't think he's that guy for your sound. I think maybe he's off the bench in that regard.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Kanye and Nas didn't work out. That shit was a bust. You know what I'm saying? Like that falls on someone. Like both parties have to be like very much tapped in and in conversation. Like y'all gotta be in the same room. Whether it's you and one producer or you and like a multitude of producers. Like to this, I'm working on an album with a great friend of mine, of you know, a familial, a loved one basically, and like there's joints that I hear now in the scope of everything else that it's not just me producing it, right? And then there's joints that I've given them, and in the beginning it was like, okay, cool, we're crafting this thing, but also there's other people in the picture. Right. All these other people are either in the room or in deep converse or know Son very well, right? Yep. I'm now going back to a few of my joints that I gave him in the beginning, and I'm like, I'm gonna save. Maybe put that verse on it. I'm gonna give him a new beat for that thing, and then that thing could then sit and be used. That beat could be used on a different. That previous or original beat can be used on something different in the future. Because it's not fitting with the sort of rollout, like with the creative rollout of like, or the narrative arc of this thing. That, you know what I mean? But So I'm pulling back one of my joints to say, okay, this doesn't fit in this situation anymore. This is like too much of a wild card or whatever it is.
Ooh. So
And
you're working with the other producers, like you're hearing their stuff. I'm like, okay, this is what he's created with this producer. This is how my piece fits into the whole puzzle. Is that the approach that you're taking? Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's an executive producing thing, right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this when we get into like Vegas Vic with Disco Vietnam, right? Who helped curate the project, right? So
that's coming up, yeah.
So let's go to the next 5. We're done. 34 is La Luz, self-titled. Zilla Rocca, 33, Vegas Vic. Coach King Micah, the infamous Mighty Healthy, King Mighty 2. Casey Musgrave, Starcrossed. AJ Suede, Avada Kedavra. And yeah, so La Luz, to give the short version, amazing female band out of Seattle. They do this kind of stuff that is almost like a cross between doo-wop and surf rock.
Oh wow.
Alternative vibes in there. And I wrote this when I was recommending them to subscribers, which is they're so good at their harmonies and at building their songs that they, like, Adrian Young stepped in and helped out. Okay. And I don't particularly love Adrian Young. I think he makes tracks very messy. In this case, it was a positive. They needed his messiness. They needed him to cat in the hat some of these songs. And he did. And Metal Men, and just there's songs on here that they would never have made with the cartoons thing. Just amazing. And it's a great listenable, polished album. It's one of the few rock albums that I really connected with. So I'd recommend that. Vegas Vic, as we talked about, like I don't think Coach had ever done an album with someone else as executive producer before. Like he had done the one producer, one artist thing, but he had never had somebody there curating it with him.
Right.
He said, like, this guy had me buy a new mic, there was this difference. It was different. And it elevated him. And if you have the right person, that can be amazing. I was actually 2 days ago, I did my FME Attention Undivided with Prem Rock. And I was able to ask, my first question was, you are a part of the weirdest sequencing of the year. There's a sequence later on in the album, Vegas Vic, where it goes from Vetiver to Yiddish Pimps. And Vetiver is a song about like hitting on women. And it closes with Prem Rock, Masterful Job, and then Yiddish Pimp starts with Prem Rock. And I never heard anybody do that with someone else on their album.
Word. I mean, you don't really hear it too much if that's the thing. You definitely don't hear it often.
With the same other voice for like a 2-minute span, it became a Prem Rock album. And that's a tribute to Coach, who just doesn't care. And it's like, if you got the hot hand to put you in, shout out to Zilla. So
yeah, no, Zilla approaches things with a vision for sure. I mean, like, I know he's been working on Vegas Vic for quite some time too. It's now like out in the open, documented and all that. Yeah, no, I mean, he has a plan, which is more than what I could say about a lot of other folks. So yeah, definitely.
No, and the interesting lyrical part of the 2021 for him, because Coach is tricky when it comes to like talking about what he means, because he keeps himself humble. He's like, it's just what I was going through at the time or whatever. And I think when they did the Never at Peace podcast, Career Crooks just dropped Never at Peace with Small Professor, and we're going to have them on. Alaska said that it was like grouchy old man complaining over spaghetti western sounds, which is
Yeah.
different. But I disagree, and this bit and Never at Peace are incredibly interesting to me because they're not angry to me, they're wistful. There's a real wistful quality to these songs. If you listen to Vegas Vic, he's like reminiscing on the first time he saw dust heads and Catholic schoolgirl uniforms, and just just going through, like, you know, we used to drink and listen to the Dog Pound together in old dirty warehouses, and like that was just he really puts you in these places. But there is a recollecting and a measuring of his life and the people he's known in his life, which I think is just really unique to hear and listen to. So shout that out.
Right.
Yeah. The King Micah and Mighty Healthy, King Mighty 2, big drums, hard raps. We loved this one when we reviewed it. Do you remember this one, Kay?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a hell of an album. I talked about it with Mighty Healthy a little bit on the other one, of like understanding that other people were doing kind of slow, drumless, sad albums about sad stuff. And so to make a consciously big drum, exciting album where somebody's just rapping their ass off,
Absolutely.
flew against the grain in a way that made an imprint for them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say has been, for both of you, what would you say have been some of the production trends of 2021?
Okay. I'll rock some off the top.
Yeah.
Good.
Drill is still a thing, or co-opting drill is still a thing. Because let's be real, you know, that's a very specific type of music that goes with a specific type of subculture. So it's weird when, I mean, it's disgusting actually when you know, the way it's being exploited. Exploited. Yeah, exploited.
Yeah.
All that. That's the word. But yeah, drill is the thing. Definitely a continuation of like the so-called grimy beat, but now we're hearing more of these like sound packs, or like the sample pack. Like I don't know, I've been getting these weird Instagram. I think like Beat Butcher might be part of it. It's like these like, but it's this thing of like, yo, like, all right, I have to kind of go back to the two last West Side Gun tapes, right? Of the name that I'm not going to mention. It's fucking terrible. It's stupid.
It's rugged. It's bad. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's fucking dumb. It's dumb. Like, but what I will say is, you know, on other Griselda familial projects, I keep hearing these beats that are like a single or like maybe two xylophone notes that are also like tape warped. So like you kind of like woozy, and then just like a drum break underneath, and I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like wow, like this is like literally like the Griselda type beat. So like, yeah, type beats are still a thing. Like you have the drill type beat, you have or like the Pop Smoke type beat, you have the Griselda type beat. You know, you have you have a lot of drumless loops going on, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, what else? I mean, I think like, yeah.
It's about regions, right? Like,
right.
The UK really had some interesting shit, inflow, and just all the stuff that was connected out of the UK that sounded like it was from a different world. And Chicago was back with new sounds and interesting things, and from Mick Jenkins to Def C to all these people. Really diversity.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about tropes though? Are we talking about like
No,
trends?
I mean,
or
well, we're taking production, right? So he was talking about
Mhm.
production trends, but I
Yeah.
think regions really helped the production diversify a little bit, right?
Sure.
Was coming out of, the Isaiah Rashad's album was able to, as an example, kind of took the TDE muted tones and pulled it through that Tennessee scope and
Mhm.
created something new, which was cool. You saw the regions kind of influence, cross influence, and break through. And I think the people who were making type beat albums didn't win this year.
No.
So that was the positive.
No. I mean, honestly, yeah. You still got a lot of reference. A lot of like referencing, which isn't always the best. I mean, it depends on what you're doing with it. You know what I mean? But there's like a lot of like, I feel, I don't know, like that thing, the type beat thing. It's like a type beat is because you're referencing something else that is like a trope at this point. Even like King's Disease or like what hit what's his name?
Hit Boy?
Hit Boy, yeah. Like Hit Boy's doing like the Rockefeller, like the shit that he did for Benny the Butcher. Like that's like Rockefeller, Bink. That's like big Bink, type energy with like the fills and all that shit. Like, it's like
that's a shirt. That's a shirt.
It's
big Bink energy.
Big Bink energy. But I do want to say like also I am hearing like a lot more. I feel like I'm hearing more folks bend and break sort of the traditions in terms of like what can be considered a beat you could rap over, which I love that. Like, especially with like the folks that I'm around or whatever, like, and the shit that's coming out in the next, I mean, like, like even like the Lungs and Feek stuff or whatever, like they're rapping over like these loops that sound like they're recorded off of, some like random sci-fi movie or TV, like recorded off the TV, and it's just like, it's not these like in your face boom bap drums, but like they're rapping circles around like whatever these loops are. It's super minimal, but it's because they're like also like, I don't want to necessarily, it's hard, not that I don't want to hear them over drums, but like I understand the tactile, like the utility of like taking away an element that is so prevalent to make way for the voice. That's the Ka effect. That's like what Ka like literally said that. He was just like, yo, like I'm like the final instrument on the track. My voice is. And like if you're rapping in like a pocket of any sort, like you're creating the drum, you're creating the rhythm, like you're dictating the rhythm or like accentuating it. So I think like there's like a beauty, like I'm not knocking drumless beats. Like why would you, I don't see a point in that necessarily. I get it, like you're bored, but maybe you're just listening to the wrong people rapping over drumless beats then at that point. That's because I'm the drumless beats I'm hearing, the so-called drumless beats, the simple minimal loops I'm hearing, those shits are being utilized in a way that's like fascinating. You know what I mean? People are taking it to task and like actually doing it with an intent. Once again, it comes down to intention. It's just like you're doing this, you know what I'm saying? So like, and I'm hearing noisier stuff too, just weirder stuff. I love that shit. I love like,
we got some of that coming. I'm
excited. We do. Facts, we do. Let's go.
So 31, I wanted to shout out. I think Star-Crossed is by Casey Musgraves is one of the most interesting pop albums of the year, right? In terms of how fucking weird it is. When I first heard if this was a movie, I was just like, I think my skin was crawling. I was like, is this gonna be okay? Like, is this gonna work out? Because, camera roll. There's just songs on there that are just so interesting that like we talk about this all the time in terms of what can I get from you that I can't get from anybody else. There Is a Light is an example of that. This is just a song this is an album I wasn't ever far away from. And so I had to give it love because when you do a breakup album, it can be, especially if you're a pop star, like there are pop stars who put out breakup albums every year. That's the moneymaker. And so, and at some point you wear yourself down. And this was like cinematic the way she wanted to be. carried in a way I don't think others did. So I wanted to give her love on that.
Mhm.
I've got an AJ Suede rant here. I love AJ Suede. He is like in my bullpen with YL, the top of the order. You know what I mean? I love these cats. Puts out great work. Keeps his name out, 6-7 songs, usually in a package, whatever, moves along. And Avada Kedavra, he produced himself. I think AJ Suede is exactly somebody who would benefit from a label that would help him, like Chong Wizard, like PTP, like Insubordinate Records, people who can like kill the merch, right? Kill the art design, like who can be there and help so you don't have to do everything yourself and bring you to a different audience. I want Suede to hit that next tier because he's unbelievable. Prem was like, this guy makes me want to rap.
Yeah, no, he really showed out on the Prem album, and I've known AJ, like just in kind of in passing, what for like almost close to a decade now, like just from my man Mums. I feel like used to like has done songs, like done music with him, or like with like folks he used to run with back in like when Mishka was a thing and all that clothing brand. That Slash like sort of had a record label kind of.
Remember this.
Actually, well, actually, yeah. I mean, how I got on Cities of Eve was via Mishka. Maybe their blog or whatever, or maybe
I might still be on this mailing list. I might still be on.
Yeah, word. So anyway, yeah. AJ definitely. It was like a pleasant surprise, like a really pleasant surprise. To not only see him pop up again, but to see his name and to hear what was happening. You know what the work was at this point, like how he grew. I was like, oh shit, like this makes sense. This makes a lot more sense in or whatever. Like I feel like not only did he find his footing, but like perhaps like he found a sound that really suited his whatever his channel, his energy channel, so to speak.
Yeah, he's got a flow that is completely unique, right? And buried punchlines that are fascinating to unpack and to hear again, jokes that are great. He's just an incredibly well-rounded individual, and you can throw him anywhere and he'll adapt, which is why I just think it'd be awesome, right? You put him on Insubordinate, Griff produces an album, or Chong produces an album on Chong Wizard, whatever. I don't know. He needs like I would love to see where the sky is for him, where the limit is when he's got a team. And he's not doing this by so next group, Nappy Nina J Words Double Down. It's the final group here.
This group is crazy. This group is really crazy.
Cities of Eve, the crashing sound of how it goes. Luca, Why Look Up, God's in the Mirror, and NCL Tim and Doof, Swamp Funk. Wow, that's 5.
Great group.
Yeah, that is nuts.
We're getting to hard stuff. So I mean, those are like, man, those are the kind of albums you were talking about, just crazy innovative, like worlds of music. Okay, talk about hearing Cities of Eve for the first time with the sound of how it goes.
I mean, it's like you said, what is something that I can't get, what is something I can get from you that I can't get from anyone else? And that's what Cities of Eve, like all of it, like I really like this group. This is a really strong group right here.
Yeah.
It's just, like I've just felt like this whole year, like it's just, as I said, it's been overwhelming music wise. So when there's something that, when there's a project that is not only cohesive, but intentional, it really tends to stick out more than I would say in other years, maybe even last year as well. It's just the landscape that we're in music wise is just so it's so overwhelming. So when you have something that has a unique perspective, intentionality, as well as, you know, vision, it stands out to you.
No, his, like, that's Cities of Eve, his time signatures don't make sense in the real world, right? But his brain is different. And so when you're listening to Cities of Eve, you're in that brain, and time signatures make sense for the only time they will. And but shout out to Jay Words on the Double Down. Like, Jay Words, I've been saying this, is like an incredibly important talent, and everybody should be calling Jay Words. It shouldn't just be like a Styles the Boss, like, collective with Nina and Masai. It should be, everybody should be on the horn, because the BPMs that she can successfully bring,
right,
people can't do that, like, and make it good rap. So lots of people should have Jay Words beats.
Run up Jay Word's Cash App. You know what I mean? Like, send her the bread for the fucking sonic wizardry that she will provide you. And also, like, you know, if you're cool, then be cool, and, like, you know, make a great thing with, you know, make something great with them. You know what I mean? Make something great with Jay, because, like, Jen is just ridiculous, yo. Like, she's absolutely easily one of the illest. If like, how are you not excited if you listened, if you like paid any attention whatsoever? Like, not only just the air stuff, not just, you know, Double Down, but also her own, you know, Sonic Liberation, her own solo work has kind of run the gamut as well. But yeah, she's crazy. Like, she's so, you know, Gadget Girl. Shout out to Gadget Girl, my little sis. You know what I mean?
And like, we talked about NCL Tim and how, like, the sampling on Swamp Funk, weird old blues and jazz, almost stride piano stuff, that's just so different from anybody else's samples, and that's perfect for Doof and how strange Doof is. I couldn't get enough of Swamp Funk. I'll be honest, I was most proud of Free Music Empire when we were successfully showcasing weird shit other people weren't showcasing, right?
Absolutely.
When we did a full Swamp Funk week, when we did like a back and forth Teller Banks appreciation thing with the Rap Music Plug, like, that's the shit that really got me excited this year, because I was like, other people just start doing this, and it's going to set off a chain reaction of, you know, Teller hits me and it's like, oh, I've never even heard of a bunch of these producers you want me to work with. I'm going to look them up. And, you know, or, you know, Zilla coming out being like, oh shit, now I'm a fan of Teller Banks. This is fire. Like, that's awesome. That makes me very excited. And so that Swamp Funk is just, Doof is such an incredible character. And I just hope we get 20 more years of Doof releases and just goofing it up. We have earned it.
Yeah, no. Swamp Funk is the most recent one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Cause I for some reason I thought it was a part 2, but yeah, Swamp Funk is that shit. You know, Uncle Tim destroyed. You know, like did the damn thing with the beats and the production. Doof is like definitely. I feel like Doof is like proving further, proving further how like singular he is as like as a lyricist, or like as a rapper. You know what I mean? As a wordsmith. Beyond, you know, his beats already been
amazing.
Like most people know him. I feel like most people know him for his beats, and like his beats are crazy, and he's got that warp thing down to a science, like that like loop, you know, that tape warp thing. That I think a lot of people are kind of trying to take that sauce from him, but you know, and all the verses on all the guest verses too. Shout out to my guy Silence, destroying things twice. You know, really bodying things twice on this joint. Essie sounded super ill. That's like Deuce, like best one of, like, I guess what I understand like to be Deuce, really like one of his closest friends or whatever. So it's just like, yeah, this joint is really like really stood out to me when I heard it, and that's something that again I told them I'm gonna go back to it.
Yep.
I mean, all these joints like Nappy Nina, J Words, I've listened to many times.
I've got another Nappy Nina rant in me here because I was when Kay, one of the things you ask all the time is like, so there's so much music, how do I stay up on it? My answer is Patreon, right? If you subscribe to Dad Bod Rap Pop, Call Out Culture, right? Dead End Hip Hop, Rap Music Plug, Free Music Empire through WordPress, and you have that flow coming in, right? Then you can successfully understand stuff you don't. I didn't really understand Nina when I first heard her, but it was Nate LeBlanc on Dad Bod Rap Pod's love of Nina, undying love of Nina, that made me come back to it and really fall for Double Down, right?
Mm.
That's why I was like, all right, this time I'm going to engage with this one because LeBlanc is super into it and he's not dumb. Like, let's go. So, and it opened up, the key opened up the door and I understood it, you know? So get engaged with the people who are doing the work to hear all the music and let them flow to you with that shit. And you'll be.
Put it.
Yep.
I mean, once again, harkens back to my point about, you know, how do artists get known, get put on, and how important the job is of those who do the reporting on the culture as documenters, you know what I mean, as folks who signal boost artists. And especially shout out to y'all and, you know, Rap Music Plug, you know, certain folks, you know, Gary Suarez, you know, folks who I like off the top, you know, these are people I'm who are just highlighting the lesser known, you know, like the lesser celebrated because it just for whatever reason, you know, like really trying to like push this, like push the fact that like there's more, and also like your fingers are on the pulse, like you are trying to understand and trying to dig what the fuck is going on, and like tap in with folks from like a, you know, from more of a like not subcultural level, but like just on a level of like, like there's something else going on out there. Like New York isn't just Griselda and like Griselda type raps or you know, whatever, what's that dude's name, Dave East or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's you know, so yeah, again, I'm just, you know, just to bring that point back, and you know, it's important for folks to get supported on like their efforts. So yeah, Patreon, subscriptions to newsletters, things of that nature, like they're not expensive and they go a long way, I feel. So
yeah, I would say my recommendation would be Curious with a K and Road Data, Concrete Jungle with a K. It's 8 songs. It's on Chong Wizard Records. One of the coolest last songs on an album in terms of seeing ghosts. Hell of a listen.
Curious, like Curious George, Curious CM.
Kurious.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Damn, I did not know. I will have to tap into that.
John got Curious and Road Data together, and it was Planet Asia's on it. Homeboy Sandman's on it. It's 8 songs, but it goes, and it's I love this stuff. I love that projects are like, they don't have to be super long anymore. You know, they can be reasonable sized. You know, it can be 8 songs, 30 minutes. You can do that and it'll be fine. People are fine with it, you know. We're seeing different lengths and different styles and teases. So that's what's made it a healthy assortment, I feel like, of albums. Yeah. But this has by far been the best year Free Music Empire's ever had. No question. Like, and you know, K Diggy's a huge part of it. That's why I'm buying him a free hat. And I'm like Suge Knight. I'm coming through with like a GIF, you know, rather than
Oh no.
but no, and Big Flower, it's been incredible having someone who's that good.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, that's a fact.
And like being able to talk through situations and help. It's been awesome. So I can't say enough about it. It's really just another level of being able to be useful, the art of being useful. And that's been a huge part of the year. So thank you for everybody making that possible, listeners and people like Tuesday. This will already have dropped by the time this comes out. Messiah Music is going to give us his 5 favorite albums of 2021. So that's pretty.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that. I love the small professor, the small pro joint.
That was my favorite thing of last year.
That was phenomenal. Also, it was an honor to be in the list.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
But goddamn, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, yo, this was ill. Thank you for having me on like twice this year.
Being on.
No problem.
Wait, twice? Yeah, it's twice. It's twice
Yeah,
so far.
twice.
Yeah.
We did it. Did it. And we'll do it again because we got to do the rest of it. We'll see it together. Kay, any recommendations? Any
I mean, TV wise, like I've been watching Succession. Succession has had a really strong season.
Crazy.
Love that show.
Yes.
So that's what I would recommend.
Right on. No, we've been doing a lot of stuff. We tried the RIP to the Cowboy Bebop. Canceled 3 weeks after.
Oh gosh. When are they gonna learn though?
I will forever blame the wig on the villain. Vicious. Go ahead and watch like 2 episodes, and when they cut to Vicious, who's the bad guy, it's unbelievable. It is like a Star Trek creature on his head. It is awful. It's something to watch, really, to say, wow, that they thought that was good. That's amazing. Shooting all over the board. Not even
yeah. Yeah, no, that one definitely caught a foot. That was not. Stop with the real world, the live action depiction of anime. Like we're not. I don't tap into anime to like watch shit that I could see actors do. I want to, you're never gonna be able to translate Akira or any of that to like live action. Like just the transformation scene alone, like is gonna be like impossible. So, nah, I'm good on all that. Succession though, wow, that's been crazy.
At some point they'll do like a live action Grinch where he is like a jazz musician on heroin or something, where it's like the kid with the golden arm, but like it's a live action Grinch.
Oh wow, damn.
Yep.
Oh shit.
I pitched it. Don't worry about giving me credit. It's fine. Take my yes.